All right, howdy everybody. Again, happy Tuesday, happy tax day. If you're not ready to file, make sure you get your extension in by today, still make your payment, all those kinds of good things. All right, so we're going to be talking about tariffs, taxes, and transformation today. And just a little bit of housekeeping. This is not me lecturing to y'all, so feel free to type in questions. Feel free to ask if you want to unmute and just verbally ask your question, and you can put it all in the chat, and happy to answer any of those kinds of things. So my goal for you today is to leave with a little bit more of like settled feelings. I know if you watch any of the news lately, like it's easy to feel rattled. I'm not a big news watcher myself. However, I've been traveling a lot lately, and there's always news in either hotel lobbies or in airports. And so you can feel like the sky is falling, even with just a little glimpse of that. So, all right, let's dive in. If you don't know me, hello, howdy. I am Dr. Lisa Faast. I own 2 pharmacies. I've owned lots of pharmacies over the years, but I currently own 2. And I am the owner of DiversifyRx, and we put on the Pharmacy Profit Summit, and we also have Pharmacy Badass University to make badass pharmacy owners out there. Here is all of my contact information, so feel free. I know many of you are going to be listening to the recording of this, so if you have any questions that we don't address in the webinar, feel free to pop them in wherever you can reach me at. Obviously, I'm all over social media, but if you don't want getting anything lost in my inbox, go to drlisafaast.com and they won't get lost. All right, let's get going. My goals here for today is to review tariffs, give you the lowdown on tariffs and the impact of them on pharmacies, talk about some high impact tax tips, and then give you some specific things that you can do to have an awesome year, because that's really what we're about here. I am all about making you love pharmacy ownership again and all of that. So just some disclaimers, all right, since we're talking about finances and things like that, these are just my opinions. I am not a lawyer or CPA, and I do not play one on TV. And the information that I'm sharing is as up to date as of today. Obviously, I cannot foretell the future either. All right, let's dive in. Tariffs. I have a senior in high school and I have a freshman in high school, and obviously there's economics classes. My senior's in economics, and I was like, man, there is no better like economic lesson than what you can learn from just our world nowadays. So many things they teach you in school and in the books, and you never see it come out in real life. And then all of a sudden, tariffs and the economy and all this kind of stuff that are like real tangible things are all over, and everybody's talking about it. So, for those of you that are Pharmacy Badass University members, this is a glimpse of our pharmacy profit matrix. So we will be sticking in right here, kind of understanding tariffs and impacts on business is what I consider a CEO type of thing. This is something that you as a CEO of your pharmacy needs to manage. So on our pharmacy profit matrix, this is right where that content is. So if any of you go to find this content later, you would find it there in the matrix. All right, so what is a tariff? Let's just, let's make sure everybody's on the same page of what actually is a tariff. So a tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods by a country's government. All right. So it's on the country, it's imposed by the government. Like you as an individual don't pay like a tariff bill. It's happened at the point of import. And the goal of a tariff is designed to protect domestic industries and domestic production by making foreign products more expensive. Tariffs can apply to raw materials or to finished products, and basically they impact your cost of goods. So they impact how much things cost. So if you purchase items that have a tariff, they are going to be more expensive than obviously if they didn't have a tariff. So you're paying more for the stuff that you are obviously then reselling, okay? Which has impact on us as pharmacy owners, because whether it's prescriptions or stuff over the counter, we're resellers, right? So what about tariffs and drugs? There's been a lot of chatter and a lot of misinformation. Obviously, I'm in a lot of different pharmacy groups, and it's been a little crazy out there. So historically, the U.S. has always exempted pharmaceuticals from tariffs. They wanted to make sure that there's affordable access to medications. Like they have always been excluded. The Pharmaceutical Agreement Act of 1994, which led the major countries to eliminate tariffs on all finished drug products and on the active ingredients. So all of the major countries basically said, we agree, we're not going to charge each other a bunch of extra prices for drugs. We want everybody to have access to drugs. Despite this, there's been some things from time to time, raw materials or non-prescription products, or diagnostic tools and equipment. So even though an equipment might be used for something in medical, even pharmacy related, it wasn't necessarily exempt from a tariff like the pharmaceutical was. So those can still have definitely tariff impacts. Now, what about more recent years? So U.S.-China trade war 2018 to 2020 saw proposals to add tariffs to certain APIs, concerned over drug shortages and drug supply chain issues. We didn't actually see anything, but there was talk. Tariff pressures, obviously, what a lot of happened most recently is it's highlighting our U.S. dependency on foreign manufacturing, whether it's foreign manufacturing for, vehicles and steel or foreign manufacturing for drugs. We all know as pharmacists that most of our drugs are not made here in the U.S., right? Most come from India. I know a lot of times the lay population or the media population focuses on China, but we all know that a lot of our drugs come from India. And so obviously tensions fueled call for reshoring. Obviously that's the current political is you add tariffs to hopefully to reshore, to bring back manufacturing and bring back those supply chains here. We obviously saw during COVID what disruption in supply chains can do. If any of you remember, I know it's 5 years ago, it seems like a long lifetime ago, people called for bringing back manufacturing onshore, bringing back drug production onshore. When everybody's having import masks from China, it's like, is that what we want to be doing in the middle of a pandemic? Maybe we're not so sure. So specifically, what about Trump's tariffs and drugs? So that's kind of like the history. Pharmaceuticals have been, for the most part, off limits. But what's happening now? Like what's happening today? What is the news talking about this morning? So I'm going to give you some really, really just days old news, if you will. So in April 8th, Donald Trump said, we are going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals. That was when this really started coalescing that pharmaceuticals were now being swept into the conversation of tariffs. April 10th, Novartis, who, we all know, announced a $2.3 billion investment in U.S. facilities to preemptively address tariffs and to bring back some production to the U.S. April 12th, Commerce Secretary confirmed that pharmaceutical tariffs would be coming in a month or two. Very vague there. And then on April 14th, just yesterday, Trump reiterated at a public event that pharma tariffs are coming in the not too distant future. So there is a lot of talk now. As I talked with some of my members on office hours just a couple hours ago, here's my opinion on this. One, things can change at any moment, right? Like, tariffs have not been included for years and years, and all of a sudden somebody can change their mind and include them. So this is all out of our control. Two, Trump is negotiating, right? Like on a very public platform, but he's negotiating. When you're negotiating, you generally make some moves or say some things that, keep your opponent, if you will, in the negotiation on their toes. This could just be bargaining chips. It just might be a piece on that chessboard that he's using in order to get reactions and to get other countries to do things in order to negotiate with us. I don't honestly know. I don't have a direct line to Trump's brain. I'm not sure if I would want that, but I certainly don't know if he actually plans on doing this or if it's just one of those things that he is tossing out there as a bargaining chip and a bargaining tool. So this is where we're at currently. As of today, pharmaceuticals are not included in any tariffs. You are not going to be paying more for your drugs at this moment, and it could change in the future. You're like, wow, thanks, Lisa. That makes me feel good. So, but what could the impact be? If these tariffs do go into effect, what's going to happen? Short story is your costs will go up. And when your costs go up, we all know where that comes from. It comes from your profit. So I also think there's going to be a lot of good excuses. And what I mean by that is I think a lot of companies, and you've already started to see that, if you're on some of the email lists that I'm on for a lot of companies that service pharmacies and even just service small businesses in general, they're raising prices and they're blaming it on tariffs even if like their thing doesn't like maybe directly relate to tariffs. So I think it's a good excuse. And we're going to talk about maybe how you can use that good excuse. You don't even have to have something directly related to a tariff. I've had a lot of service businesses say they're raising their prices, and you can think like, well, a service business has nothing to do with tariffs, but they might be using equipment, they might be using other things that, you know, could then be impacted by a tariff. Now, if our drug costs raise, you all know that the PBMs aren't very quick to raise reimbursements. I don't, you know, I tried to maybe reach out to some of the people I know in the PBM world. They didn't have any information whatsoever. But if, let's say, a tariff went in effect tomorrow, you know, 20% on pharmaceuticals, you know, do the PBMs automatically give us 20% more? We all know that that generally doesn't happen. Even when price updates are planned and PBMs are told in advance that companies are raising prices, we all know that they're not quick to follow with an increased reimbursement. So I would say that your third-party reimbursements are capitated, meaning if you get paid $100 for a drug now, chances are when tariffs go into effect, you're probably going to get paid $100 for that drug for the near future. So don't expect an increase. And obviously that can have very detrimental effects on us, which has me thinking that maybe this is more of a chess move rather than something they actually think they're going to do. But that's just my personal opinion. So if you have the same revenue, if your revenue is the same and you have higher costs and you have lower profit, right? That's the math here. So we are dealing with, you know, we all just got through the DRF apocalypse, which sucked our cash flow, right? Now we might be doing something where it's not necessarily impacting cash flow, it's impacting profit, which then obviously profit leads to obviously impacts your cash flow. But now we're dealing with actually making less money, having less money, not just about collecting and having the money in our bank, but they're truly eating away at our profits. So I don't expect the PBMs to come and rescue us if this happens. So what can you do, right? It feels like chaos. You can't control the markets, all right? Many of you have probably been some of the people that have been messaging me about the markets going crazy and all this kind of stuff. Like, you can't control the markets. Like, I honestly don't even pay much attention to them. You can't control what the PBMs do. You can't control if they're going to raise the reimbursements. You can't control if they're not going to raise the reimbursements. Like, you have no control over the PBMs. You can't control what our government does. You can't control what other companies do. Like, this is all what contributes to it feels like chaos. And you might be feeling a little more stressed. We're stressed anyways as pharmacy owners, as entrepreneurs, even more stressed as pharmacy owners. And it's like, here's this extra layer on there. So, but what I like to say and what I talked about on office hours this morning is you can control you, right? Like there are things that are in your control. And so my suggestion to all of you today, whoever you are, whether you're an employee at a company, if you're an owner of the pharmacy, invest in the LLC of you, all right? Invest in the business of you. Focus on the things that you can control and you can have an impact on, and less about the things that you can't control, because it's okay to be informed. As Casey, one of my members said this morning, like be informed, be a little bit informed, but go focus on the things that like you can have an impact on. If you need to make more money, how do you go hustle in your pharmacy and make more money? So I'm going to walk you through some of those kinds of things. So my recommendation to you all is turn off the news. It's important to understand what's going on, but don't fret. Make a plan for your pharmacy. Use the tools that we're going to be giving to you today in this webinar, and invest in the LLC of you, and that'll make you feel a lot more comfortable. So let's talk about some steps that you can take now. One, buy better, lower your cost of goods, right? If there's going to be tariffs and that increases the cost of goods, then let's focus on lowering the cost of goods. And frankly, it's the best thing that most of you can do anyways. So most owners that I talk to are way overpaying for cost of goods. I've had some new Inner Circle members lately, and I've been working with them really closely, diving into financials and looking at their buying contracts, and some of them are even negotiating, and it's just atrocious, the cost of goods out there. And I think it's partly because people don't know what to ask for. It's kind of like, if you don't know where the finish line is, like, how do you know how close you are to that? And so these companies, I'll just say primary vendors, many of them are taking very large advantage of you all. And you guys are way overpaying for your cost of goods, even before you factor in any tariffs, all right? So many of you are locked into high GCR primary vendor agreements. And those of you are like, wait a minute, GCR primary vendor agreement, what does all that mean? GCR is basically your percentage of purchases that come from generics is a great way to describe that. And your primary vendor agreement is like the big three wholesalers. Obviously there's regional wholesalers too, but it's who you quote unquote have an agreement. There's actually not a contract, it's an agreement that you're going to purchase from them, and they'll hold you to some performance metrics in order to give you some certain pricing. So bad contracts are a high GCR, better contracts are a lower GCR. All right. You are getting a pretend discount on brands. And I really do mean pretend, okay? You are paying for your brand discount with your high generic commitment, and they're charging you double what your generics, should be costing you. And so you're paying for your own brand rebates. But it's kind of like the house always wins. You never get back quite what you're overpaying. The other thing that just bothers me to the core is this exclusion of GLP-1s, specifically. Sometimes it's just specialty in general. But it's like, okay, Cardinal, you're not making enough money off of us. You're going to also charge me more than what it costs you to buy GLP-1s from you. And you're excluding that from my brand rebate just because. Like, it just kills me. Kills me. When you have a crappy contract of what you buy through, here's the impact. It destroys your cash flow. Absolutely destroys your cash flow. Pharmacies close and pharmacy owners worry at night because of cash flow. So if you worry about paying your bills, if you worry about paying your rent, if you worry about payroll, if you're not paying yourself, all those kinds of things, it is because of cash flow. And the biggest impact on your cash flow is your inventory and your cost of goods. The other things it does is reduces profit. Many of these primary vendor agreements, you end up paying more for your drugs, net, after rebate, after everything, than what you would pay for on the open market, which is ridiculous, sounds ridiculous, and it is. But it also limits your flexibility. I don't know what's happening in 2025 this year with like wholesalers cutting pharmacies off. That has been a real big thing this year so far. I've had very good pharmacies with very normal either control prescription habits, overall purchasing habits, and all of a sudden they're cut off with no warning. Sometimes it's just control, sometimes it's their entire account. So when you're locked into these agreements with your primary vendor that makes you buy all your generics from them, makes you buy everything from them, where you're disincentivized from having any other open accounts, it creates a very big risk. It creates a single point of failure in your business. Meaning, if your wholesaler decides to cut you off, right or wrong, you're locked out. Like, you have nowhere else to turn because it takes time to ramp up those other accounts. You just can't turn them on automatically, especially for controls. So it limits flexibility. Flexibility is key to surviving as an independent pharmacy right now. Our world changes all the time. Right now, like just when we're getting a breather from coming out of the DIR fee, it's like, okay, like breather. Now we have all this tariff stuff. It's every day there's something new. And so you have to be flexible as a pharmacy owner, and your operations need to be flexible to accommodate that. So these terrible agreements that many of pharmacy owners I see signing, it limits flexibility, which is absolutely key. I see that there is a question. So before I go to the next slide, I'm going to check it out. I've seen a bigger downturn than the DIR fee apocalypse. It has been like a lot of people expected 2025 hey, we're out of it, like we all collectively breathed a sigh of relief. But I've seen it very weird, Jim. I've had people say this is weird, I've had like better reimbursements than ever, and then I've had other people say like this is weird, my reimbursements are worse than before. I think it has a lot to do with your PSAO and book of business. And that's actually why I had Kyle Shin from ICBN talk at the summit and talk about the PSAO analytics. Like, it's really, really important that you have your contracting aligned to the patients and prescriptions that you have, because it can make a world of difference. So we have to be connected to one of the big three. What's the alternative? Actually, you don't have to be connected to the big three. Now, I still recommend having a primary vendor agreement, whether it's with the big three or one of the regional wholesalers. I do in my pharmacies, but we just don't play their game. We don't care about rebates. We have a very low GCR. We purchase most of our stuff on the secondaries. We basically get our brands when we need them. We've actually offloaded a lot of our brands, especially Medicare brands. I don't think any of our pharmacies really fill many more for Medicare brands. So it's not as complicated as it seems, definitely. So Devin, that was Devin. All right. So what do? Renegotiate your primary vendor agreement today. Okay, like this is one of the best things that you can do for your pharmacy. If you can knock your GCR from 24% down to 6%, all of a sudden your world is going to be different. You are going to wake up in a different world the next day because you have flexibility to buy your generics from just about anywhere. So renegotiate your PVA today. Here's your goal. This is what like I tell people, these are the people that I work with one-on-one in my inner circle. Like this is the goal. Doesn't mean you have to hit this exactly, but you should be working towards this in some way, shape, or form. I say generally WACC minus 4.5%, a GCR of 6%, and no GPR. Now, not every wholesaler has a GPR. That's a performance rating of like how much you purchase through them. I know McKesson is really big on that. There might be other wholesalers out there, but I prefer no performance because, again, I want flexibility in my pharmacy. If it's better for me to purchase from wholesaler C today, I want that advantage to be able to purchase from them. But this is like what you should be working towards. I've talked to some people. They're like, oh, I have a WACC minus 5 and a GCR of 8. Okay, that's not terrible. Like, you know, it's like it's pretty close. But I've talked to a lot of people lately that have WACC minus 2.5 with a GCR of 24%. So it's like, not only are you not getting a discount on brands, they're also forcing you to have all your generics through them, which means your cash flow sucks, your profit sucks, and you probably feel like you're dying, right? And their answer is like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I'm dying. It's like, yes, you're bleeding to death because you're a primary vendor. So what you can do is move money to secondaries, move your generic money. Okay. Doesn't mean you have to move it all. You can have huge impacts on your cash flow and profitability, even by switching just a little bit. I worked with RxAdvisors for the summit, looking at some of the reports, and it's like even 5% of your money being moved to a secondary wholesaler can result in thousands of dollars in savings and in cash flow. You got to remember, you need cash in the bank to operate your pharmacy. Cash is like oxygen. Profit is water, okay? You need both. Like, don't get me wrong, you absolutely need both. You can live a little longer without water than you can with oxygen. You're gonna die really quick if you don't have oxygen. Same thing with pharmacy. Your pharmacy is gonna die really quick without cash. So you need cash flow. So there's tons of secondaries out there. I threw some up on here just to give you guys some direction. Many of you have heard me say this before and have probably heard me say it for years, and you've just been scared, all right? When you switch to purchasing from a secondary, you don't call your primary up and say, hey guys, I'm leaving, bye-bye. You don't have to close your account, all right? Some GPOs will. Some GPOs that have those high GPRs, that have those performance metrics, they don't like that you purchase from others. And it's the GPO that actually closes your account, not necessarily the wholesaler. Sometimes the evil guy is not actually the big three. And I know that sounds like heresy. It's sometimes the crappy buying group you're a part of, okay? And not all buying groups are bad. Hey guys, sorry about that. Lost my internet there for a minute, but I'm back. All right, switching to a secondary, even a small portion of your dollars will result in tons of extra cash flow and profitability. And you do not have to make this complicated. I promise you. You don't have to hunt and call 10 different wholesalers every day, check all the prices of everything. What I do is we just pick a secondary. That's our first choice. And pretty much everything goes to the first choice. And if they don't have something, then we go to our second choice, or we go to our primary. Or you can use marketplaces like the ones I put on here, like the Rx One Shop, the Prime Rx Market, those kinds of things that you send it all to them and then they divvy it up. So like, it does not have to be complicated. I know it feels a little scary for some of you, but I promise it's not that bad. What I would caution you to say though is don't let fear become a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's many pharmacy owners that I have spoken with that they finally took the jump And it was enough to like help them keep their pharmacy open to be able to sell, but it was they were too far gone in order to really completely recover their pharmacy. And they're like, I was so scared to move that fear of change actually became the self-fulfilling prophecy that's what caused the downfall of their pharmacy. So don't let fear, like, do what's best for your pharmacy. And honestly, what's best today might be something different next year. All right. Like, that's just the way that it is. It's the way our industry rolls. That's why you need flexibility. Flexibility is just number one. All right. So more steps. Have a sale. All right. Yes. Have a sale for prescriptions and OTCs. I know so many times pharmacies often don't think of like sales, but people in other businesses, I'm in a lot of entrepreneur scales, and it's like, their pipe in their house broke during the frost. So what do? They have a sale and they make more money. You can do that. You can have a sale. This is part of the things where I'm like, think about the LLC of you and focus on the things that you can do. So let's have a sale. Promote cash RX discounts on large supplies of generics. There's people out there that, hey, consumers are uncertain about the times. They're uncertain about the drug supply chain. It's like, hey, get a 6-month supply of your drugs. We're having a 6-month for, $30 sale, $40 sale, $50 sale, whatever. Like, have a sale. Promote those prescriptions. Sell some for cash. OTCs, right? You all got this, big room. Some of you have small pharmacies, but many of you have these big areas of all these drugs, and they're just kind of sitting there. Have a sale. OTC strategy. So have a stock up sale, stock up before the tariff, stock up before drug supply chains. Like, don't get caught without what you need. So have some stock up sales, right? Buy the current price dip, these products that's been sitting on our shelf was before there was any tariff or any price increase. So buy before the increase. You can have a buy before the increase sale. Raise prices on your new stock, and you can sell the old stock at old prices. So it's like, hey, as we get new things in, they're going to increase in price, but come get the old stuff, before it's gone. It's kind of the same as before. Blow out lower performing items. Too many of you leave stuff on your OTC shelves that does not sell. All right. We do not have time for that kind of inefficiency in our businesses. Every square foot of your pharmacy must be producing income. So if you have things that just aren't selling like you want to, just blow them out. Give them 50% off, whatever. You've already paid for it. The money's gone. So let's blow them out, get what cash you can. And then that way you can put something else there that might actually make more money and sell more often. So don't forget, you can have a sale. All right. This is something that I've seen a lot of companies start to do, and I think pharmacies can totally do this too, is a Made in America section, right? Because if it's made in America, it's not going to have a tariff. So a lot of people have start to create like little sections of Made in America. So get a Made in America section. All right. Number 3, raise your prices. I know so many of you are like, ooh, that feels icky. You don't like raising prices. Some of you haven't raised your prices in a really, really long time. It might be time to raise your prices. Okay. Again, you could use it as an excuse, the excuse, right? So if you haven't rebalanced your pricing, now is a great time. So many places are raising the pricing that your pricing raise is probably going to be noticed less. All right. If you wait to do it in 6 months when everybody else has already done it, it's going to be more noticeable. Kind of like, I don't know about you, but I'm getting so many emails like, next month our prices are increasing by $5, or our prices are, blah, blah. Like, everybody's getting it. Yours just going to get drowned in the ocean of everybody else that's doing it. So think about your compounding. So many of you haven't changed your compounding, your OTCs, your prescriptions, your services. Think about everything in your business and raise your prices. All right. Eliminate free. Now, you might be thinking, Lisa, I've been following you for a while. I know you love free, and you're always telling me I can get rich off giving away things for free, and you absolutely can. Free is like one of my favorite things. And what I mean by eliminate for free is have some sort of criteria. All right. So 1, you can eliminate free. You can charge for your time. You can start charging for packaging. You can pass on the credit card fee transactions. There's a lot of things that, are really extra services that we just kind of throw in that legitimately could be paid for. All right. Then you could also still have free, but basically they're not paying with money, they're paying with requirements. So, free delivery if you're on our sync program, or free delivery if you purchase an OTC with your prescriptions. Those kinds of things where it's like, not really a fee per se, but you're having a requirement that they have to meet. That way you get those extra OTC sales, or you fill all their prescriptions at once, and therefore it's more efficient for you. So think about all the things that you give away for free and maybe see how to reframe them, okay? All right, increase your non-PBM revenue. Increasing your non-PBM revenue helps you ride the tides that are our industry like this. You know, a new administration comes in and they all of a sudden say, we're going to start charging tariffs on pharmaceuticals when it's basically never been done before. If you have a well-established non-PBM revenue stream, you're like, well, that sucks. Like, but I'm okay. I'm stable. So that's really what non-PBM revenue does, is it stabilizes your pharmacy and makes it more predictable. And that's why I've been a big fan of non-PBM revenue. And that's why we address a ton of non-PBM revenue inside our membership as well, because it just creates more stability. So one, sell more OTCs. I would bet 99.9% of you on this call are not selling anywhere near the level of OTCs that you need to be. And I used to be a part of that group where I thought a certain amount was okay. And then when I started visiting more pharmacies and broadening my scope, this is many, many years ago, I realized that the amount that a pharmacy should be selling is way higher than I ever thought it was. You know, we have our member Luke, who he sells, I forget, I think it was like 13 or 15,000 a month of OTC sales in a very small town. And he spoke at the summit, and when he switched to all cash, so he dumped all of his insurance and switched to cash, he still retained over 50% of all those OTC sales. And it's climbing back up as the patients, he converts all of his patients. But I bet you all are not selling as many OTCs as you need to be. One of my best recommendations is to blow up the traditional OTC layout, all right? Don't use, the planograms from ABC or wherever. Like, blow up the traditional OTC layout, because that is not how a consumer shops nowadays. You want to arrange by outcome. They don't wake up and think, today I'm going to go to the pharmacy and I'm just going to walk and browse the aisles and see what catches my eye. Like, that's not what patients say. Patients wake up and say, gosh, my knee is hurting today. When I go to the pharmacy, I'm going to look for something that helps with knee pain. Or, gosh, like, I can't get my compounded 𝗔𝗰𝗃𝗏 anymore. I need to look for something else for weight loss. Like, they think in outcomes, therefore you need to sell in the same language, in outcomes. So better sleep, better energy, better sex, better, better, right? That's all they want to do, is they want to get better. A really great section that has done really well for me is hot on social media. Social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook even. I just see it more on probably TikTok and Instagram. Talks about supplements. Like, there's supplements that'll just catch a trend on there, and then suddenly it's like everybody's following that trend. So make sure you're selling what people are being sold to on social media. I know magnesium's always really popular. The beginning of the year was like the skinny girl drink or whatever, like all the different ingredients in that. And so hot on social media. If you're like, hey, Lisa, I don't watch social media, how do I find out about? One, you can either ask your employees, or two, go ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will tell you what's hot on social media. Made in America, I mentioned that before. And drug-induced nutrient depletion. So this is my favorite. I actually did my last year of pharmacy school, my entire presentation research on drug-induced nutrient depletion. So I've been a fan for a very, very long time. Those of you who are members, our mastermind this week is on drug-induced nutrient depletion. This is a huge thing. In my research for that webinar, I think it's 30% of drugs, 30% of pharmaceuticals are known to deplete a nutrient or core factor of some kind in the body. 30%. That means you have patients that are taking a prescription where they should be on a supplement just to counteract their drug, not for wellness or for, feeling awesome, but just to counteract that drug. So that's a huge opportunity. Another thing that I think a lot of you don't take advantage of is your employees. Your employees, one, they're your customers too, generally. Like, they're part of your community. They also have a relationship with your patients. And so I love creating recommended by employees. It doesn't have to be like an entire section. It can just be one product. It can be like a little shelf, depending on how your pharmacy's set up. But let your employees curate things that are maybe on the end cap or the things by the register. Let them put their name on it. Let them know, like, here, I recommend this. And maybe I recommend it because I gave it to my kid and it worked amazing. Or I recommend it because I took it and it was amazing. There's a lot of different reasons why they might recommend something. Product of the week and month. So many of you are like, well, I would like to post on social media, or I'd like to do more posting on social media, but I don't know what to post about. And so you can start a product of the week, product of the month. And it's really easy. Like, talk about it. You know, hey, got my Vaseline lip stuff here, and here's why it's the product of the week, and it makes your lips feel really good, and talk about it. Like, it'll become really easy for you. But people pay attention. Like, they're trained by all the other psychological things that other stores do. So it works. All right, some of my other favorite non-PBM revenue: workers' comp with Stream Care, one of my tops; becoming a Medicare agent with ICBN; medical billing. We had these companies all at the summit: the Scripted, Provider, CSAO, DocStation, and Workflow Services; cash consultations. You guys can just charge cash. People will pay, I promise. DME with Convicare. I swear it's the easy button for DME. And last but not least, we're going to talk about decreasing expenses on steps you can take now, all right? Become lean and mean. I am here telling you, giving you permission, it's okay to say no. And what I mean by that is you all are some of the nicest people on the entire planet, and every nonprofit in your town knows it. And they know when they come to you, they're going to ask for a donation and you're not going to say no. It's okay to say no, all right? It's okay to be lean and mean and cut all unnecessary expenses. You can always go back. It doesn't mean they're cut for forever. But it might be time to say no to some people, and that's okay. All right. Calculate your expense ratio. It should be less than 19%. All right. Payroll people. It's a huge, I don't call it a blind spot, because every pharmacy owner that has an outrageous payroll, they tell me they have an outrageous payroll. They just choose to ignore it. So it's not a blind spot. It's an ignore spot. You all need to make the tough decisions and get your payroll under control. All right. That's the job of the CEO is to make those tough choices. And so you've got to get your payroll under control, especially if costs might be going up. All right. Use the discounts you have access to. All right. I've talked to a lot of our Pharmacy Badass University members just in the last couple of weeks, and some of them weren't using all the discounts that they have access to. And you all have discounts probably that from groups that you belong to. So obviously we have membership discounts. Your PSAO probably has lots of agreements with lots of companies that have discounts. Your pharmacy management system sometimes has that. Credit card perks, things like that. Like, we all use different things that allows us to have certain discounts, even if it's like your credit card is like free TSA for a year or whatever. Like, if you're going to use the thing, make sure you just use all applicable discounts that you can, so you can decrease your expenses as much as possible. All right, so that's kind of bubbling up tariffs, if you will, and all the things that you guys should go do for that. But because it's tax day, I wanted to talk a little bit about taxes. And again, just remind you, I am not a CPA. This is not any sort of financial advice, just recommendations. All right. So in our pharmacy profit matrix, we're down in step 4, and we're at tax and wealth optimization for those of you that are members. All right. Knowledge is ammunition against taxes. The more you know, the more you save. All right. And so understand, the first thing that I'd recommend, understand your entity structure and how you are taxed is really the foundation for your individual tax strategy. Because I might give you recommendations, but maybe it doesn't apply to you because how your entity is structured. So you really need to understand that first. That's first and foremost, to be able to have more intelligent conversations, and then to be able to educate yourself from the standpoint of what your entity structure is. So use a CPA or tax dude that knows taxes for entrepreneurs, okay? If you're still using the same tax person that did your W-2 taxes and now they do your, entrepreneur taxes, chances are you're leaving a bunch of money on the table, because taxes for entrepreneurs and business owners is like a whole different ball game. It's like going from little league to major leagues. Like, it is just a whole different ball game. It sounds the same, but it is really just a completely different game altogether. So make sure you're using somebody that understands taxes for entrepreneurs. Really, the tax code was written for entrepreneurs. It was written for businesses. We just have so many more things open to us once you're not an employee anymore. So educate yourself. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be a CPA, but you should just, this is an area that affects you year after year after year. So spending a little bit of time and educating yourself here is going to pay off basically the rest of your life. I'll just tell you Tom Wheelwright. Tom Wheelwright is, he's the CPA that advises for Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's one of the world leading knowledge people on taxes. He's got a couple of books. We had him speak at the summit. He's done some webinars for our members. So those of you that are members, you can go find Tom's stuff inside the membership. So his books, his 2 books that I'd recommend, great place to start, and will give you probably no more than your CPA by just reading those books. Don't let fear wag the tax dog's tail. All right. So many times there's a saying that says, don't let the tax, the tax dog wag. I don't know why I can't say that. The tail. Don't let fear. So many people are like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to take that deduction because it might cause an audit or something. Know the rules for the deduction. If you qualify, you qualify. If you don't, then don't take it. Like, by all means. But don't let fear, by playing by the rules of just like, oh no, I might do something, stop you from taking things. I've heard a lot of people say, I don't know, the R&D tax credit is I don't really, I don't know. They just like they can't even stumble. They can't even like quantify it. And so there's a lot of things out there that so many pharmacy owners that I've talked to have not taken advantage of because they're just fearful. And taxes are one of those things that it's like, the rules are the rules. It's like, here's the guidelines. It's actually pretty clear about like who can take that deduction. And you either qualify or you don't. So it's really important that you just don't let fear of like this unknown audit prevent you from optimizing your taxes. All right. It's okay to go back and amend returns. Okay. Obviously, I'm not a tax person, but lots of things that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, or I didn't take that deduction that I should have. You can go back and amend returns. And great tax advice is priceless. All right. It is that's one of the things that I am happy to pay for. So get a good tax person, go to some tax classes, those kinds of things, like, because you get to use it over and over and over, and it compounds over time. So the earlier you know something, the more years you get to get that return on that investment, if you will. All right, I wanted to give you some not normal tax tips that many pharmacy owners may not be using. So these are maybe some things that you're not hearing about. Changing your accounting methodology. Some of you probably have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, but there's 2 ways of like accounting. There's the cash basis and accrual basis. And you would need to talk to your tax or bookkeeper and accountant, all this about it. But if you change your methodology, there might be some benefits for you. So if you're currently under the accrual method and you meet the requirements in order to convert to the cash method, you can deduct the value of your inventory among some other benefits that switching to the cash basis might give you. Now, normally inventory, you don't deduct it because inventory is not an expense. You're just exchanging cash for an asset. So you only get to deduct the cost of goods sold. Once you dispense the product, then you get to deduct it. But when it's just sitting on your shelf, you don't get to deduct it. But during this one-time transition, you could all of a sudden be able to deduct it. It's a one-time allowance. But if you do qualify, it could be worth multiple tens of thousands of dollars to you. Now, there's criteria. Go talk with your tax people. But this is definitely an option that could help many of you like come out of a hole. All right, number 2, use other people's tax credits. You're probably like, what? All right, so individuals and businesses generate millions and millions and millions of tax credits that they can't use. Now, a tax credit is a dollar for dollar offset. So if I have a $5,000 tax credit and I would have owed $5,000, it just washes away that. It's not a deduction. A deduction, if you had a $5,000 deduction, you would deduct it, but then you only get like 30% or whatever your rate is of savings. Credits are a dollar for dollar offset. So all these individuals and businesses have millions of dollars and they can't use them. For some types of those credits, they are actually allowed to give the credit to somebody else. Now, they generally don't give it, they sell it, and they're allowed to sell that credit. So just an example, they might have a tax credit that's worth $10,000 and they'll sell it to you for $3,000. And you're like, what now? So you buy the tax credit for $3,000, but you get a tax credit equal to $10,000. So you offset $10,000 of tax liability. So this is for some of you that have maybe had some banging years with like GLP-1s, compounding, those kinds of things. This might be something that you want to look into. All right. All right. Number 3, entities and ownership matter. Okay. How you hold your entity and the type of, and by entity, I mean like corporation, S Corp, LLC, but how do you tax yourself, all those kinds of things, that legal stuff that you probably didn't even think about when you were like creating all your business. So most pharmacy owners are self-employed, and yet you miss out on the largest tax benefits because we have employees. Not many of us, unless we have a small kind of consulting pharmacy, run our pharmacies without employees, all right? They're the greatest benefit, and like sometimes the greatest curse of having employees, right? We love them. But they also prevent you from accessing some of the largest tax benefits for being a self-employed person. In my personal opinion, a solo 401k is the greatest tax savings and wealth building tool. For example, you can put away, I know last year's maximum was $69,000. So in a normal IRA and those kinds of things, the maximums are like 20,000s or somewhere low than that. I don't have a normal IRA. I don't remember what the maximums are. But in a solo 401k, you could actually put away 69,000 for last year. I think it's gone up a little bit to 70,000 for this year. But you can't do it if you own a business that also employs employees. This is where entities and ownership matter, especially if you're married, right? A lot of us are. So you can't use it if you have employees and the companies you own more than 50%. So you might talk with your tax people about creating some different entities, modifying the ownership so that you meet the rules so that you can unlock that amazing tool. So this is not some of the things you can just flip a switch. You got to plan and figure that out, but it could be worth being able to, because as a self-employed for that solo 401k, it's an expense for the business. You get to deduct it as a business expense, and it goes into your retirement as an individual person, and it's a lot higher than the normal like IRA limit. So it's an awesome tool, awesome tool. But you have to qualify. So entities and ownership matter. All right, these are some normal tax tips now. Those are my 3 not normal tax tips. These are just some normal tax tips that you might likely not be using, okay? So I'm going to go through those. Employ your children, even your young ones. I started employing my children when they were about 2 and they could actually do something. Then I take their money and put it into a post-tax IRA, and that way that money gets to grow forever for them. So I deduct it as payroll, and they all do work in my businesses in lots of different ways. I actually was looking at some old pictures of my first pharmacy when my oldest was a baby, and he grew up in the pharmacy, and I started him young doing things. But it's a great strategy. Reduces your taxable income from your business, helps your children start generating wealth for them. Write off your vehicles. Obviously, all of these come with, you have to qualify and have to follow the rules. Write off way more than you're probably doing. That's just a general statement. There's a lot of tax returns I've looked at, and I'm like, you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this. So again, that goes back to my first advice is make sure you're working with a CPA and a tax person that actually understands entrepreneurs, okay? Rent out your house for 14 days a year to your business. Be an active partner with your tax expert, okay? Don't be passive. This is one of those areas where a little bit of advocate for yourself can result in lots and lots of savings when it comes to tax day like it is today, all right? Okay. So transformation, we've got tariffs at our heels. We've got taxes that are always looming over us. Like, how do y'all like put this together? So it is possible to have a pharmacy that is a blessing and not a curse. I know many of you love your pharmacy, but feel that anchor every day of like weighing you down, and it becomes further and further apart from what you really want it to be. So, you can have a pharmacy that brings in positive cash flow every month, pays you not just a normal salary, but a true owner compensation. Many of you don't pay yourselves, or you pay yourselves a little bit, or you pay yourselves as a pharmacist. Not many pharmacy owners take what I would call a true ownership compensation because the pharmacy just doesn't generate enough, but you can. I promise. You can have a pharmacy that builds wealth for your family and your employees. It's always important for me to take care of employees. Isn't a dumpster fire every damn day? Like, yes, our industry is just prone to dumpster fires, but some of the things you can't control. But a lot of the dumpster fires, if you actually had some planning and some operations and stuff in place, it wouldn't be as nuts as they are, right? And a pharmacy that will profitably operate without you having to do it every day. Thanks, Jordan. I did. I wiretapped you, my dear. But I will tell you, it will not happen without you changing your operations, okay? You have to change the way you operate your pharmacy. How you operated years ago, the things that you did even 5 years ago that made you successful are things that kill your pharmacy today, okay? Buying everything from a primary vendor and just hoping for the best and just waiting for that rebate check every month, every year. Heck, I've gotten rebate checks 3 years later. Is not the way to a prosperous pharmacy. You have to change our industry is different. We have slimmer profit margins than ever before. We have crazy other things like clawbacks and PSAOs with crazy ass contracts. We are just living in different times, which means you just have to operate your pharmacy differently. And you need a modern strategy for the modern world that we are in, okay? And that is what we do in Pharmacy Badass University. That is what we do for our hundreds of members. My promise to you is to give you more time, more profit, and more impact, okay? We cut through the chase of everything that you're supposed to be doing in your pharmacy, help you modernize it to where things like tariffs and taxes, they suck. Like, I'm never going to say like any negative change in your business, but it's not devastating. It's, the number of pharmacies that have just closed over the last few years have just, it breaks my heart. Like I get sweaty and I get a visceral reaction. And watching our members thrive and stay open and hearing that we help them do that is the whole reason why I keep going and I do this stuff for you all. And we do that through our pharmacy profit matrix. I'm showing it to you right here. This is what we teach our members, right? We take them through. Step 1 is all about reversing poor cash flow and low profits. Step 2 is building those strong business foundations, starting to create those systems, right? 3 is about scaling. That's when we really turn it on, where you actually want to get bigger and do those kinds of things. And step 4 is all about diversification, right? Like things might go away at any one time and it's completely out of your control. And that's why you got to build, I call it the profit lasagna. You got to build your profit lasagna and have lots of layers so that even if one layer goes away, you still have others. All right. So, that's what we do. We have a membership fit for every pharmacy. Okay. We have three levels of membership. Our basic membership is $100 a month. That's going to give you our monthly mailed Profit Vault newsletter. It's going to give you tons of templates, our community chat, and gives you access to our discounts, right? Like our group discounts. Okay. That's $100 a month. That's it. We also then have our Essentials membership. That's where you start to unlock the full portal of membership. You get access to the Pharmacy Profit Matrix. You get access to customized graphics, unlimited custom graphics. You get access to all of our calls, all of our recordings, all of our content. Like I mentioned, 𝗕𝗏 in his tax webinars, like he doesn't just do those. I happen to be friends with him and I've known him for a really long time. So he'll do webinars for our members and we have those recordings in that membership and you get access to those calls. So yes, you all get the recording today because you're on a webinar. You will get this recording. And then we have our unlimited membership. Our unlimited membership unlocks one-on-one coaching with our coaches. It also gives you access to our Pharmacy Growth Hub, which we launched at the summit, which is completely done for you digital marketing, where we do it all for you. Our digital marketing team becomes your digital marketing team. And you also get a free summit ticket, and that's $800 a month. And we also have a ton of free stuff. So I am not here to just make a buck. We also offer a ton of free stuff. You can head over to DiversifyRx.com. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got the podcast. We've got the blogs, lots of resources to help you because I just want to help you in whatever way fits the best. And want you to love owning your pharmacy. I love owning my pharmacies. I get a little giggly about them. I love it. And I want everybody to love it too. And frankly, Loving your pharmacy means it's profitable, it pays you, it's not a pain in your ass, and it's something that you actually enjoy, and it fulfills the need in your heart in whatever way that is. Information on biosimilars versus biologics. Not really sure what question you mean by that. There are some biosimilars out there for those, but if you give me a little more info, I'll answer your question right here. On membership, I never have any contracts. Never, ever, ever. It is month to month. And you can move up, you can move down, or you can move out as needed. We never hold you to anything. And we also offer a 90-day money back, you'll love it guarantee. And I'm happy to put my money where my mouth is because I want to earn my place in your wallet. I just talked to you about how, you know, the sky's freaking falling. But we really believe, I really believe that our program is going to help you make tons more money than what you pay me. And I'll back it up with some stuff. And I will tell you, for everybody on this webinar, chances are you are concerned about tariffs and taxes and just in general about your pharmacy, that if you sign up for membership within 24 hours of this, because I know not everybody's on live, of the webinar, that I'll also include a one-on-one call with me whenever you join, and I'll be happy to dive into whatever it is you want to dive into. We can look at financials, which is always super fun, and you know, that kind of stuff. So reimbursement for biologics versus biosimilars, not a pharmacy owner. Still not quite sure what you mean. I mean, reimbursement is based on the drug. Some insurances have formularies, so some of them have taken off the original and added the biosimilar. Some of them have stuck with the original because we're getting a huge rebate. So there's not any sort of like direct comparison between those. So I'm not happy to continue to answer that. I just wasn't sure exactly what you're asking. So also, we are having our Pharmacy Profit Summit next year. We're having a Western theme, which my redneck awesome is going to finally be useful. We're moving on over to the Hilton Anatole, which means we're going to be huge in the sense that we're going to have lots of fun things. We're going to have a mechanical bull, some roping stations, and all that kind of stuff. So if you want your $350 ticket, which is the lowest it will be of between now and the summit, you can grab it here. And we'll meet you at the Hilton. And I know a lot of you sometimes wait to buy your ticket, which means you pay more, which actually I hate because I don't make more money when I charge you more for your ticket. I raise my prices because, you know, the vendors raise their prices. I'd rather you pay me less and I pay them less. And you're worried that like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to get like, you know, coverage, or I'm not sure exactly what's happening next March 28th, 29th, which is actually Saturday, Sunday this year. Buy your ticket. And if you need to cancel before the end of the year, so December 31st, you can fully get a full refund. That way you can lock in your low price and I don't have to charge you more because I hate charging you more. And you can figure out your weekend of March 28th, 29th until the end of the year. So that is it. I don't think there's any other questions. Let me see. But feel free to stick in your questions here if you have one, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. You're most welcome, Jordan. Thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate you. Okay, that's what you wanted to know. All right, awesome. Recordings for the member training you just talked about. I think that might have been the Tom Wheelwright, Catherine. So yes, and feel free to message me, but yes, it's all in the membership and you can just use that search box in the membership. You can search by like keywords like tax or whatnot, and it'll bring up all of the stuff in the membership having to do with that. So I think that might've been it. Okay. Aisha has her hand raised. Let me go unmute you, my dear. All right, there you go, Aisha, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can. Woo,
okay. All right. I had a quick question about when will the videos from the summit or the most recent one be uploaded?
Great question. They are about half of them are going to be uploading tonight. So
okay.
Yeah, so we've got like the first chunk of them finished being edited, and then the next chunk should be like another week or so. But yes, starting this week, they're going to be loaded. So
okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. You are most welcome.
And I kind of missed some of the beginning part, but essentially tariffs shouldn't really affect a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, right? Or there could be that potential.
I'll give you the 30-second summary.
Okay.
In all of history, pharmaceuticals have been excluded. Recently, Trump and some people in his administration have said that they're going to be using pharmaceuticals and including a tariff on pharmaceuticals. Personally, I think it's just a chess move piece and part of kind of like negotiating, you know, hey, we're gonna put this really bad thing up there, and that way it gets people to talk to us. But it is possible to happen. But I think they're just using it as negotiating tactic. But so currently right now, it does not touch pharmaceuticals, but that doesn't mean it can't touch, you know, your other technology, your other things that you sell. But it could change.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Welcome, my dear. All right. And let's see. Do you recommend any tax company for pharmacies? Yeah, so Quartermaster Tax was at our summit most recently, and I can include their info on the email that goes out. They're really good at like tax saving strategies. They're not a bookkeeper, anything like they focus solely on tax things. So Quartermaster Taxes would be a recommendation. Explain renting out your house for 14 days. Okay. Thank you for asking that. I didn't really go too much into detail. That's one of those things that I think most people know, but obviously not everybody does because not everybody's a tax nerd like me. So your business can rent out your home for up to 14 days in a year. And this could be to hold your meetings, staff training, staff holiday party, you know, those kinds of things. And the whole 14-day limit is personally, you can accept that rent income and you don't have to claim that rent income on your taxes if it's for 14 days or less. So basically you get a deduction on your business for renting out space. So you get to deduct that from your taxes and you get to transfer it to you personally without paying any taxes on it as long as it's less than 14 days. So that's like the general rule. Obviously there's some other nuances, but that's the general gist. Let's see, I'm getting notices from my biosills they would increase prices due to tariffs. My service providers all go up in the time without tariffs consequences. Yeah, that's what I said. I've been getting notices from like the moment tariffs were mentioned, it was the excuse. Like, you know, it's like, hey, sorry, because of the tariffs, like we're raising prices. Chances are they were planning on raising prices anyways, and they're just kind of using that as the excuse. That's why I'm telling you, you can use it as the excuse and raise your prices on things that maybe you haven't raised your prices on before. Can you tell me about the post IRA for kids? Yeah. So you pay your kids just like you do any other employee. You pay your kids, pay them up to now you could obviously pay them more, but I pay each of my kids up to the limit before they have to pay taxes. So they don't pay any taxes, federal or state. We're in Texas, so we don't have any state income taxes. Woohoo! But obviously federal, so I pay them up to the federal limit. Your state limits usually follow federal, but always check your state limits. So they don't pay any taxes. You know, they get paid through my payroll company, and I use Gusto, which I love, and they get paid through Gusto. And then that payment, once that payment hits their bank accounts, I move the maximum amount over to their IRA, which in previous years it was like 6,500, then it was like 7,200, and I don't know, it's, you know, it increases the limit, whatever the limit is for the year. I transfer that amount of money over to an IRA, and then the rest goes in a taxable brokerage account. And since it's all post-tax, in the IRA, obviously it'll grow tax-free. You can withdraw tax-free. The post-tax account, there might be taxes obviously on there and that growth, and that's normal brokerage rules. But your money in the IRA will grow forever tax-free because it was put in there post-tax. So hopefully that helps. Can you include a CPA as well, please? Oh, in the email? Yeah, I'll include some CPAs. What sort of things do you have your kids do in the business? All kinds of things. I mean, when they were little, it was trash, shredding, taking the stickers off the labels, sweeping, cleaning, vacuuming, picking up the toys. Like, I mean, all kinds of things. Get a little older, you know, restock the shelves, all kinds of stuff. Like now at Diversify, you know, if any of you are members and you get your swag boxes or anything like that, my kids put all those together, right? Like we have these big, we call them packing parties, and my kids do all the packing. My son, once he started driving, he started doing errands for the business and, different things for the business. So obviously it depends on their age, but that's why I don't pay my kids until they're about 2 and they can actually start doing stuff. Some people, my kids have also been paid by my husband's business when he was doing solar, because he used them in a bunch of his ads in the pictures with the solar panels and stuff. So there's different things that you can do depending on the business and whatnot. So yeah, so if you ever get anything from Diversify, chances are my kids are the ones who did it. Let's see. My accountant questioned my kids' age versus our state employment range. So when it's a family-owned business, you can have kids work before like any of the, like you can't hire a stranger at, 5 years old. That wouldn't be allowed, but family-owned businesses, you can have your family's kids in there. There's no age limits on there. Let's see. I heard compounders can use yes. And it's not just compounders, even regular pharmacies, you don't have to be compounding. It's just a lot of times there's more research done in a compounding pharmacy than in a retail, but the R&D tax credit can be very worth your while. Some of you may not. That's okay. At least you tried. At least you looked into it. But some of you can be worth many, 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 many muna. And Quartermaster Tax does that as well. So Quartermaster Tax would be who I talk to that. So Alpa, I see your hand is up. So I'm going to allow you to talk, my dear. So feel free to let me know your question. Are you there?
Hey, yes. Hey, Miss Lisa, you already answered, my dear, for the IRA post tax for the kids. So that was
okay.
the whole question.
All
But
right,
I
no
appreciate
problem. No problem. Thank you. Alrighty, I think I got them all. If something comes up after the fact, feel free to message me. I'm happy to answer your questions as best as I can. Most importantly, make sure you get a good expert that works for you. I was actually just talking to one of my members about lawyers the other day, and they had switched lawyers, and somebody recommended this other lawyer, and they switched and whatever, and their new lawyer, they can't stand him. They don't communicate well with him. Like, it just irritates the bejesus out of them. And I was like, go back to your other lawyer you liked. Like, you have to, when you're working with professionals, especially when you pay people like you pay lawyers and things like that, like, it's really important that you just jibe. And it doesn't mean that the other lawyer is necessarily bad. It's just like, so make sure you have a CPA, make sure you have a tax person, make sure you work with people that like you just communicate with, like you're on the same wavelength. And that's just really, really important. So even if I say somebody is the absolute best and you just don't jibe with them, like, that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm bad, doesn't mean they're bad, doesn't mean you're bad. It just, sometimes people have Apple brains and sometimes they have Android brains, and like, that's okay. We're all okay. Question: when it comes to starting an LLC or other holding companies, would you stay in your state, or would you look into starting one in Wyoming? It depends on all your thing. Like, I don't know what state you're coming from, so there's that. I know like one of my entities is based out of a different state. I'm trying to think of the state and I'm totally drawing a blank. It's not Wyoming, but it's, Montana. It's my entity that owns my RV. Because in Montana, I don't have to pay like the exorbitant fees on like the RVs or whatever. So like we did that in Montana. So like that was for a very specific purpose. I don't know Indiana tax. Sorry, Kendra. I've never lived in Indiana. I've lived in lots of states, but I've never lived in Indiana. But I would only pick another state if there's a very clear like benefit. Like, I formed it in Montana because I was buying an RV and I didn't want to pay sales tax on it. And it saved me like, $15,000 or whatever. So I had a very specific purpose. Obviously I'm in the great state of Texas, so I don't have to pay state income tax. So I think all of our other entities are all Texas-based entities. But yeah, talk with your tax person and there might be a benefit or whatnot of doing that. So yeah, that's definitely part of like understanding kind of like this whole foundation. And too many people don't pay attention to their entities. And again, they miss out on things like the solo 401k. You just miss out on other tax benefits because of that. So it's really important to have that conversation. So good job. All right. I think that's it, everybody. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And buy our ticket to our summit. I just realized I had the summit thing up there. So buy our tickets to our summit. I want to see you in Dallas next year. It's going to be a hoop and hollering time. I promise. I'm already starting to work on the content. Got some really, really good. We're going to have, I don't want to spoil it. I'll officially announce it later, but we're going to have some really, really good topics. And, if you want to become a member, again, I invite you to become a member, whatever level is appropriate for you. Completely 90-day money back guarantee that you will love it. I never want your money if you didn't love it. I don't want your bad juju. I'm all about positive energy. So, but I promise we will do everything that we humanly can to help you have an awesome, profitable, cash flowing pharmacy. So, adios, everybody. I will let you go. Thanks for staying. And until next time, everyone. Bye-bye. Bonus session. I didn't see questions in the Q&A. Who pays the tariff? So the tariff is paid by the company who's doing the importing. So, for example, my husband imports from Poland. He imports doors and windows. If you ever want doors or windows, call my husband. He has really awesome windows. They're triple pane. He imports from Poland. So the company, when they, do all the shipping to sign, they have to pay the tariff when they're shipping. Like, what's the value of your stuff? Then, whatever plus the tariff is. So they would have to pay that bill. So it's the company that ships it that is responsible. Hopefully that answers your questions. Where can I find out what my WACC is? So WACC is a mathematical equation between AWP. So I'm doing this from memory here, so forgive me, but I think you take AWP, I'm going to mess it up trying to remember it. It's like 0.833. You take WACC, you divide by 0.833, and that's AWP. But to reverse it, I think it's times 0.8. I think it's 80%. I'll just include that in my email. I'm trying to remember the equation, and I'm not remembering it. Do you employ your children as independent or payroll employees? Don't payroll employees, just normal payroll employees, just like I pay everybody else. I only pay them though. I pay them an annual salary up to the federal limit though. So they make 13,000 or 14,000, whatever that federal limit is what they make for the whole year. So, alrighty, there. Now that's it. Now that's done. I think I've got all the questions now. Sorry guys, I didn't see those earlier. And let me double check the other chat real quick. All right, there you go. All right, now I'll let y'all go. Adios, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.